My name is Christopher Walis, as you know. I'm going to talk a little bit about me, and I'll give a background on this town hall, why we're doing this. I'm going to keep it brief. So I'm 26 years old. I came out when I was 16. At that time, I started to get involved with the LGBT network, going to their youth services and their programs and all that. And what I learned at a young age was when I came out, I was widely accepted by the people in my life, and I understood that a lot of people didn't have that privilege, so these issues became very important to me. Anything facing the LGBTQIA plus community became very important to me. And that was back in 2016, June of 2016. And then a few months later, the election happened, so you know how that turned out. So the reason why we are here is since January 20th, homophobia and transphobia, they've become emboldened into our American culture. The LGBTQIA community has been attacked nonstop by this administration. They've been attacked up and down, and we've seen complete radio silence from the people that are supposed to protect us and speak up for us. But they don't want to because they might see it as a losing issue. They might not be able to get elected, so they just ignore us. Now I'm just going to give a brief list of the things that have happened to this community during this Trump administration. His first executive order was to ban gender affirming care for anyone under the age of 18. His next executive order was to ban trans women from female sports, banning all trans people from the military and re-enlistment, and prohibiting them from receiving early retirement benefits or even having a hearing. We've also included the Trevor Project on this town hall, and it's a very important cause. All the funding for their youth suicide hotline as of July 31st has been cut. They only rely on individual donations. LGBTQIA youth are 4 times more likely to try and commit suicide than anyone else. So I'm going to get to the speakers now. Our first speaker is the parent of 2 trans adults, Jennifer.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jennifer Hovestadt-Molloy, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. First, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Christopher Walis and Assemble Long Island for having this town hall and allowing me to speak. As an ally, advocate, and most importantly, as a parent, I am deeply honored to be here. I am the proud parent of 2 incredible young adult children who happen to be transgender, and they have been my biggest teachers, and I feel so blessed and honored to be their parent. Before my children came out, I knew very little about the transgender community. However, since then, I have embarked on a profound journey of learning and have become a fierce advocate for this community. Education and visibility are the keys to fostering acceptance and understanding. What I have come to understand is that there is not one single way to be transgender, that each person's journey is unique and personal to them. I have also come to recognize that one of the most crucial needs of this community is to be seen, loved, and respected for who they are, and to live authentically without opposition. As a parent on this journey, there have been some bumps in the road, not due to my children, but to changes in family relationships and friendships. And also, my kids came out around the same time that you know who was elected. So the political arena on top of that was really challenging. But amidst these challenges, I have had the privilege of meeting countless remarkable individuals within this community and have connected with so many amazing organizations that support them. They continue to inspire me in my advocacy. Some of the organizations that I have joined and volunteered with as a result include Mama Bears, Free Mom Hugs, Gender Equality New York, the LGBT Network, Equality New York, and the Trevor Project. Since this is a fundraiser for the Trevor Project, I'm going to speak about my experience there. As I said, I was a volunteer. I wanted to do something to help the community and applied to volunteer as a text chat crisis counselor. I am not a counselor. Professionally, I was a speech language pathologist, but at the time, I felt called to do something. The application to volunteer for them was extensive, and it was a little overwhelming, especially because I'm not a counselor, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but I did it anyway. I didn't hear from them right away, but then once I was accepted, I received extensive training, and it was ongoing throughout my time with them. As a volunteer, they require you to have a minimum of 1 year commitment and at least a minimum of a 3-hour shift every week. So you could volunteer as much as you wanted, but that was the minimum. And they need funds to provide all of this training. That training was not free. They have people that work for them, but they count on volunteers as well. So that might be something to consider if anybody feels called to do that type of work. You don't have to be a counselor, but you have to be a person that has compassion and wants to help the community. The young people that reach out to Trevor needed that. They need the chat, text, and lifelines that Trevor offers. Many of these young people live in states that are not supportive, and they have families that are not supportive, and they don't have access to other resources. Not everybody that reaches out to the Trevor line is in imminent risk for suicide, but many are, and they need the support. It's important to keep the crisis counseling lines open, specifically for the LGBTQ community, because we're trained to work with that community. It's not just like calling the 988 line. You know, you need to be able to empathize, validate, and understand what they're going through and offer them the resources that they need. I know that I've talked a lot about the trans community and not specifically the LGBTQ plus community. I support the whole community as a parent, but not everybody does. I have witnessed a lot of people in the LGBT community not support the trans community. As a parent, it's personal. The transgender community has been under attack, constant attack, since the president came into office in 2016. Over 900 bills have been presented all over the country just this year. Bathroom bans, sports bans, gender-affirming care bans, criminalizing parents for supporting their kids, and medical providers. Not all of these bills have passed, but many have. It is not only cruel, there is no valid reason for any of them. So my next message is to politicians. When you say you support the LGBTQ community, make sure that you are including the T. You do not have to fully understand what it means, just that every person deserves to live safely as who they are. There are plenty of organizations available to answer questions and provide education if needed. It is really heartbreaking as a parent to see Democrats abandon the trans community because they feel they need to be centrist, or they're afraid to speak out because they will not be elected. Supporting the trans community should not be considered radical. It is simply having compassion for another human being. My other message is that actions speak louder than words. I know we think New York is a safe place to be because we have a lot of protections here, but we also have a Democratic majority in our state legislature right now, and that can change at any time. We cannot afford to be complacent. Look at Nassau County with their sports bans. I went to those meetings and spoke out, even though I live in Suffolk County and knew that they would vote for it anyway. If you say you support the community, then prove it by showing up at rallies, not just pride events. Speak out against LGBTQ policy. It does not have to be your most prominent issue. I know everyone goes into politics for their own personal reasons, but do not say that you are an ally and then fold when the community needs you the most. Let this town hall be a reminder that we need to stand together in solidarity and continue to fight for a world where every LGBTQIA+ person can live freely and authentically without fear of discrimination or violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Very powerful. Our next speaker is running for Suffolk Legislature in the 8th District, covering Oakdale, West Sayville, Holbrook, Bayport, Bohemia, and Hillsville. Kelly Perry Hyland.
Hi, I just want to thank you so much for being here today and standing up and standing together and allowing me to be part of this fight. It's been such an honor since we announced on April 9th that we were running to represent the Suffolk County Legislature to speak up for voices from Oakdale, West Sayville, Bayport, Holtzville, Holbrook, and Bohemia. I want to speak for all voices in our district and across our county. And I wear my values on my sleeve. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and I'm proud of that. That means that all individuals have inherent worth and dignity. I wholeheartedly voted in the fall for the New York's Equal Rights Amendment. I was on the front lines advocating for it, fighting for it at debates, writing letters to the editor, calling out candidates that were spreading misinformation about this essential fundamental right that everyone deserves. I'm in a very tough race. Everyone will tell you that. The incumbent I'm running against doesn't support the same values. That's what it comes down to. And we are moving mountains together. So many of my friends are in the audience, and I hope to make more. We are raising more money than them, knocking on more doors, and we are not compromising our values. The rhetoric directly from my opponent is, I am not for allowing men to play in girls' sports. It is there, it is real. We need to hold them accountable. And my friends here are holding me accountable, and I'm begging each and every one of you today and tomorrow, and hopefully when I earn into office, to hold me accountable. If I make a mistake, call me up and say, Kelly, you left someone out. Because I am trying so hard to not leave anyone out. And I want to bring everyone along, including all our trans siblings. Because everyone, I see you, and we all deserve a voice, and we all deserve respect and right. Healthcare is a fundamental right, and I don't appreciate other people coming in and interfering with healthcare decisions. That is government overreach. I've been on the front line fighting for healthcare across our country, canvassing in states that I never lived in, and those voters valued my conversations at the door, and those voters stood up, first in the country in Kansas, to fight for fundamental health care rights for all Americans. Every American should be mad when half of the Americans are losing their health care access. And I am also a proud military family. And it is not okay when you try to divide our forces. All military members, trans and not, are valued, and we respect your service and commitment to this country, and it's despicable to say anything different. So thank you again for this crucial moment and giving us a chance to stand beside you. But once again, it's not about this moment. I need your help. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm human. I'm going to ask questions. Please help me not leave anyone behind and remind people that the values are what matter. I am a PhD scientist. Science is important, but your values cannot leave people behind over politics. And so please, please hold us accountable. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. It's nice to hear people running for office commit to the LGBTQ community. Thank you. Our next speaker is a former educator, or still an educator, Shoshana.
Thank you all for being here. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what does standing up and including LGBTQ students look like in one teacher's classroom. So many of you I know from being in the streets together, but I'm also an educator going on year 27 now. I taught for 10 years in K through 12. I've been an adjunct at Stony Brook University for 17 years. I've also taught a Suffolk County-wide youth choir. I'm a choir director. And when we think about a classroom that can sometimes be gendered, we think about choirs, right? We think, the sopranos and altos are the female voices, the tenors and basses, our lower voices are usually the male voices. And I want to tell you a little bit about a couple of students who changed the way I taught and made me a better person. So about 8-9 years ago, in my high school youth choir, which was a once-a-week group that met outside of the school day through a nonprofit. I was teaching it for a few years, and a student came in, and they were new in the choir, and after rehearsal, they said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And they said, in school, I go by my given name, but here I'd like you to call me Jay. And I said, okay, that's fine, and I'd like to sit in the tenor section. I said, okay. And I didn't know much at this point about transgender singers in choirs, so I called a friend of mine who was an expert. And I think that was a great lesson, that as an educator, you always want to be the person in the room who knows the most. It's not true. I was not the expert in this case, so I called somebody and I asked them a question. I said, how do I do this in a way that is compassionate and also make sure that I don't unintentionally cause harm? And this expert friend of mine who is a PhD, did their research in this field, said, let the student guide you. They know themselves and they know this through their lived experience better than you do. So I did. And that was a really, really informative lesson. And a year later, we were doing a composition by a local transgender composer. And as I'm introducing the composer, I start to trip over the pronouns because pronouns were kind of new to me. And one of my students raises their hand and they're like, "Ms. Hershkowitz, I think you're trying to say that they use they, them pronouns." And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, you're right. And it was this really important moment where, again, I understood I'm not the expert. The young people know better than I do. And sometimes it's really important to just be able to say, I'm not the person who holds all the kernels of truth and knowledge. Let me learn from the people who know better than I do. And when this composer came in and worked with my students, Jay was in the choir at this time, and they walked over to me at the end of the night and said, "This is so cool. And it was this moment where I understood representation matters. And not just representation, you know, in the like very performative way, but in making sure that my students see and hear from people who look like them and have shared corners of their lives. And it was an incredible lesson for me as an educator, and it made me a better teacher and changed the way I taught across the board. And a couple of years later, in my college classroom, I had a student who started in the alto section. So you've got the sopranos, altos, tenors, basses. And they had a given name that they don't use anymore. And they began to transition. And they changed their name, and they changed their pronouns, and moved from the alto section to the tenor section, eventually winding up down in the bass section at the end, after testosterone and after surgeries. And they said to me, his name is Jack. He said, I'd like to talk about this with the choir. I want to tell people what it feels like to have a voice, to lose the voice and gain a new voice. I want to tell people what it feels like to lose something so personal and gain a new identity and a new voice. And I want to present this to the choir. And I said, okay, great. And Jack got up and talked about how personal it is. And it's funny because I think as singers, you know, our voice is in our body, our instrument. And to go through that physical and emotional change, and then stand up and share it with a room full of people. And I have a multi-generational choir. I have undergrads, I have grad students, hospital employees, community members, everybody. It's a real like come one, come all. And it was the most powerful lesson for all of us when Jack stood up and shared his story. And there was no one in that room who wasn't moved and who wasn't a better human being. And we were a better community because Jack was in our classroom telling us his story. And I'm a better educator because those things are happening in my classroom. And that is the big takeaway here. I think that what I've learned from Jay and from Jack and from so many of my LGBTQ students is that I don't have to be the expert on all things, and it is better when I am truthful about what I don't know and am curious and humble enough to learn. That is what we're after here. We want to make sure that we are showing up for the LGBTQ community, and there is no perfect ally. As Kelly said, we are going to make mistakes, but we have to be humble enough to know, to listen. And you know what, I remember at one point I used the wrong pronouns on another student of mine who was using the same name but was transitioning. And I had them in my class for 3 years using one set of pronouns, and those pronouns changed. And they came up to me at the end of class and they said, "You misgendered me." And the answer is, I'm sorry. There's no other answer than I'm sorry and I'll do better. My mistake. And I think that that is the work here. We are not expected to be perfect as allies, but we are expected to learn and to do better. And the best way that we do that is by listening. We need to be humble, we need to be curious, and we need to be compassionate. And here's the spoiler alert, that applies, it's not just our LGBTQ students, that's just being a good human. Yes. Right? And I'm going to close with being political for a moment, because education, art, they're all political. Jennifer and Kelly both really referenced politicians who in this moment are staying quiet. We can't let them do that. I don't care if they have a D next to their name or an R next to their name. It is not about red or blue. I don't want us to buy into this false choice that, you know, you can only talk about pocketbook issues or human rights issues. No, no, no. You can do both, and you have to do both, right? Affordability and human rights are not mutually exclusive. And I want to make sure that we hold our politicians accountable. And I want to make sure that we don't buy the lie they are selling, that when they lose, it's because they, you know, things are too woke, or they talked about, you know, transgender people. They own their own mediocrity and their own loss. That's theirs. I'm gonna close out with, so often we hear, you know, Long Island's red or Long Island's centrist. We can't talk about these things. Bullshit. We're not losing because we're, you know, too woke on Long Island, I wish. But we're losing because so many people stay home. Because they don't feel like anybody, red or blue, speaks for them. And I'm encouraged because you see people like Kelly running for office who are willing to run in tough races in tough districts and say, I'm not compromising my humanity and my values. And I think that we're gonna see a lot more Kellys. And I'm excited for that. And I think that we can do this here by embracing our shared humanity in our classrooms, in our streets, and in our government. So let's get this done together and keep speaking up, keep showing up, keep speaking truth to power in every corner. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have the high honor of introducing former Congressman Jamaal Bowman.
Good afternoon. What in the world am I doing in Long Island? So, huge thank you and huge shout out to everyone working here today. Huge shout out to everyone who organized this event. But I want you to give a huge round of applause to Chris. And the reason why I want to acknowledge Chris is because Chris is the one who cold called, not really cold called, but just sent me a random message on Facebook asking me to come and say a few words. Actually, it's not how it happened. He sent me a message about the event, and you know, I'm bored, I guess I got nothing to do. So I click on the event and I see what the event is about, and anything related to children or protecting children or helping children, like I have a bias towards that, so I'm like click, and I registered. And so Chris, you know, he goes further. He says, great, this is great, can't wait to see you, can you come and say a few words? So I'm like, okay, first I thought it was a Zoom meeting. I didn't realize it was like in person. And then I'm like, damn, I didn't think I wanted to say a few words. I was just gonna come and support. So long story short, I ran into Shoshana yesterday at a separate event, and she was like, no, it's in person. It's in Long Island. And I'm like, where in Long Island? Now, I'm from New York City. So Long Island is like another country to us, right? And I'm from New York City and I live in Yonkers, right? So I drove my ass down here to Long Island to support an LGBTQIA plus event because of Chris and because of Shoshana. So thank you all for but it's that kind of love, it's that kind of advocacy, it's that kind of energy that we all are going to need to actually get justice for each other, for our communities, and for those most vulnerable in our communities. And I really love the words that were shared earlier. Thank you, Kelly is your name? Yes, thank you, Kelly, for your remarks. But she said something that was very powerful. Now, I had the privilege of, I don't know if it's a privilege, but I served in Congress for 4 years, and you know, Kelly said something very powerful. She said, hold me accountable. And those are words you don't normally hear from elected officials. Most of our elected officials, unfortunately, try to duck and dodge and hide from accountability. From accountability from the people who elected them to serve and represent them. And for me, that is just incredibly reprehensible in a general sense, But because of that way of doing business, if you will, our democracy is hanging by a thread, and those who are most vulnerable are being targeted. It is not an accident that our T in the LGBTQIA+ community is being targeted more than everyone else. That's not an accident. Because it's something, they are people who, you know, a lot of elected officials don't know, don't understand, don't care to know. And so because it's different, we are programmed to see it as deficient. And we should all have a specific sensitivity to this, because there have probably been many times in our lives where we have been seen as different, and therefore deficient, and therefore marginalized and put in a corner and told to kind of stay over there, if we're ever acknowledged at all. And you know, for me as a lifelong educator, I worked in education for 20 years, started my career as an elementary school teacher before becoming a high school dean of students, before becoming a middle school principal. It was that experience working with the most vulnerable kids in terms of poverty and race in our country that really helped me to develop the empathy and compassion needed to be a good educator, but also helped me to develop empathy and compassion for other communities who are also marginalized. And that was the thing that led me to run for Congress in the first place. And so we have to stand up. This is not Pride Month. I'm not running for office. I came out here as a lifelong educator, as a former member of Congress, as someone who cares deeply about this country, but even more deeply about people, and someone who really values being a good human. First and foremost, I came out here to support this agenda and to tell you we have to continue to stand shoulder to shoulder in solidarity with the entire LGBTQIA+ community, and particularly our youngest, most vulnerable children. We have to be in solidarity with each other, right? And so, as a black man in America, where I'm not even allowed to say that in certain parts of the country, or even certain parts of the state, to go through a public education system and never see yourself in the curriculum, that is marginalizing of me and my people's history. And to learn that when you do see yourself in the curriculum, you pretty much are taught that your history started with slavery. You had no history before slavery. Pretty much you were put on this earth to be slaves. And then, you know, the way you got to this country is because your ancestors were traded for spices to get to this country and other things. There's a pain and a hurt that our children of color, our children who are in the minority, feel when they go through a school experience like that. If you are a person with special needs, you do not often see yourself in the curriculum or your stories in the curriculum. And so you often feel marginalized, and not just feel, you are actually placed in other settings when you don't have to be. And if you are LGBTQIA and you live in certain parts of the country, you live completely in the shadows, never being able to acknowledge who you are in public. Imagine, many of you know how that feels to never be able to live your truth out loud with the people around you. And I say other parts of the country because listen, I served with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I know what her district's like. But it's like that in parts of New York State as well. And it's like that in parts of New York City as well. So whether you are a person of color, someone living in poverty, a member of the LGBTQ community, someone who is disabled, or a person with special needs, or a woman, because women are still marginalized in our society in many ways as well. It is super important for us to be in community with each other and to be in solidarity with each other, because the people who want to destroy our democracy and take it for themselves, they are targeting us all at the same time. And the way to fight and push back against that is absolutely together. Do not let them divide us, because we are unstoppable together. And it's gonna be, guess what? It's gonna be on us to save this country from itself, and to save our communities, and to help each other. And it starts with local elections, like the one Kelly is running in, and it can grow much bigger than that. It's the last thing I'll say. And it was mentioned before, something about voter turnout in politics. The reason why people stay home, because they know most of us in politics are full of crap. And it's really important for real people who center humanity first to be involved and to run for office and to knock doors and make calls and to do all those things. Because it's going to take all of us to inspire the next generation of people to get involved and make our country what it's supposed to be.
Yes.
It can be incredible for everyone. It has been incredible for a lot of people for a long time, but it can be even better. I know it can. The reason why I'm still standing here after all the tough battles I've fought, some I've won, some I've lost. The reason why I drove my crazy ass to Long Island on a Saturday morning, an hour and 45 minutes, Chris, is because I believe in this work. And I believe in all of you. And I believe in our collective power. So let's work together in community, in solidarity, in love, to build a state, a county, a country that our great-grandchildren deserve. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming again. My name is Paloma. I'm one of the co-founders of Assemble Long Island. I'd really like to thank Jamaal for speaking tonight, and any of the other speakers that we've had so far, especially Kelly and Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting the efforts, and for helping us here fundraise for the Trevor Project. So, without further ado, let me announce our next speaker. I'd like to welcome Garrett Peterson, Deputy Chair of ISO Dex.
That was a pretty heavy follow-up that I have to come into there. I'll do my best. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. Let me have some words here today. I want to thank Assemble Long Island. You guys are awesome. We've danced together at various events so far. I look forward to doing more with you guys. And also Chris, thank you for putting this together, inviting us to speak, taking leadership. That's outstanding stuff. My name is Garrett Peterson. I am the Deputy Chair of the Isaactown Democrats. I am considering a run for Congress against Andrew Garcia. We'll see. Many of you, like I said, know me from the various protests we've had here over the years, in Patchogue and Brentwood and Three Village and everywhere else. I get around. I'm a father of two. I've been married to my wife Irina for 16 years. My entire professional career has been helping those who need the most help. I work for an agency that provides services for folks with developmental disabilities, for everything from housing to job assistance, everything like that. My entire professional career has been about service. You need the basic stuff to get through the day. But I came to speak today primarily as an ally, as a family member of folks in this community, and most of all, as one human to other humans, right? Whatever my title, whatever I represent as an organization or do in the future, what will forever come first is the fundamental guide that we are all people together. We are all humans. We are all equally deserving of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because that is the reason for America, and it is worth fighting for. Lord knows, over the decades and the centuries, as Congressman Bowman was just talking about, we have fallen short of that ideal. But generation after generation of American has looked around them at the struggles of the day and said, you know what, we're going to confront the enemies of freedom and of progress, and we're going to beat them. We're going to want to turn around and take our rights and take our ability and hold that ground, right? Now is our generation's time to do what is right, to stand up for our siblings and to ensure that we build a more perfect union, not only for us, but for our children, be they biological or found family, or just the next generation of our community, whatever that looks like. We do that by holding the ground, and also, most importantly, not by sacrificing anybody for political gain.
Yes.
In old days, in antiquity, warriors fought side by side, shield in hand, not to protect themselves, but to protect the person next to them. They fought in the shield wall. The person to their left was protected by their shield, trusting that the person to their right was covering them. This is a lesson. The most successful military formations in antiquity fought this way. The Roman legions, the Norse, for example, also the Sacred Band of Thieves. So if anybody ever tells you that this community didn't exist in history, they're full of crap, and they should read about the Sacred Band of Thieves. Little reference for you, right? The way to victory then means, besides trusting in yourself, but also trusting everybody around you and not sacrificing anybody for what you may perceive to be a temporary advantage. Because that weakens the shield wall, and a weak shield wall can ensure defeat. It means your enemies will take advantage and break through. So I'm going to call on, not this community, but my fellow Democratic Party folks to remember this lesson. Our coalition is diverse and broad, but that diversity is a strength and not a weakness. Even if the ethics of throwing people under the bus don't bother you, which is kind of messed up in of itself, the lesson you need to learn is it's not going to help anyway. Right? Once you've done sacrificing one vulnerable community, the other side is going to come for a different vulnerable community. And then when all is said and done, you will be standing by yourself and you will be overwhelmed and defeated, and you will have stood for nothing. When you sacrificed one person, you sacrificed us all. And that is a lesson that too many folks seem to be forgetting. That sort of thing is unacceptable to me. I will not sacrifice my nephew. I will not sacrifice friends, dearest family to me who are part of this community. Or even maybe one day my children. They're little. I don't know how they're going to turn out. We'll see. As long as they don't become Yankee fans. We're a Mets household. Especially because some campaign staff or somewhere in an office suite thinks that that's largely going to produce better numbers with some small-minded people that at the end of the day are just afraid of change. That is unacceptable. Right now we have to hold the ground where we stand. Those who oppose freedom, unfortunately, currently hold power in the courts and the federal government. This going round is difficult, the challenge is great, but we also can't just stand still and hold fast. We have to advance to defeat them in the field, in public opinion, and at the ballot box. Town halls like this are a great start. Protests are another great start. They remind us all that we are not individuals isolated. We are part of a larger, dynamic community of people, all aligned with the same goal, to ensure that everyone means everyone. Everyone has the right to that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness the founders wrote about in the Declaration of Independence 250 years ago. They were obviously very deeply flawed then, right? But they still had an idea that was worth renewing and carrying forward, as long as we fight for it. So I'm going to ask everyone here, after today, to get into that fight. Help organize, go to protests and events with Assembly Long Island. Contact your electeds constantly, hold them accountable, just like Kelly and Congressman Bowman were saying. Make their staff know you by the sound of your voice because you're calling them every day. Either demand that they do their job and hold them accountable if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Make damn sure they know that they won't be able to sell you out or feed you to their base if they're Republicans. And if they're doing the right thing, call them and tell them. Politicians are like kids and pets. They respond really well to positive reinforcement. Get to know the candidates running for office this year, like Kelly, and who may run in the future, and help them out. The work of getting people into office is tedious and difficult and a struggle, and many hands make for light work. There's always labor that needs to be done, and if we're gonna win the day and get the better future that we deserve and that our kids' future deserve, then we have to work for it. That is a gauntlet that previous generations carried forward and threw down in the struggle for their better world and for freedom, and now it's our time to pick it up. Thank you again for having me here today, and know that I will proudly stand behind each and every one of you in that fight for the future.
Thank you for that, Garrett, and I'd like to say congrats on your run. Well, also I'd love to piggyback on that and say, get involved. Like, we have plenty of volunteer opportunities at Assemble Long Island, but after hearing Kelly's compelling speech, maybe contact her, ask her if she needs any help doing canvassing. Get involved. Yeah, so please speak with her after the meeting. I don't typically endorse political candidates, but I am happy to after hearing her dedicated commitment to the community. So thank you very much. All right. Well, now I'd like to welcome one of Assemble's members, Finn, to speak. I think today from Assemble we have a member each representing a letter in the community. We have a non-binary fellow, we have a trans individual from Assemble, actually another non-binary, we have the Q covered, and then also the B. So they, I've never actually publicly came out, so yes, I am a proud member of the LGBTQIA plus community and bisexual. And so I want to say that everyone here voicing your support, whether you are a candidate for office or whether you are helping get people involved. If you're an organizer, thank you so much. Even if you go out on your own volition and sticker or hand out reading resource materials, volunteer with whatever advocacy group and or canvas for individuals, thank you for everything that you do right now. And it is of the utmost importance that we carry on even in light of everything going on right now. So now I'll actually invite Finn up to speak.
Dia di Goler is Mishe Fianton no Finn. Hello everyone, I am Fianton or Finn. You're probably wondering why I'm Adlever Huerge speaking Irish. I'm someone with a twinge of family roots in Ireland, the decolonized name for Ireland. I thought it would be cool to share some vocabulary from a Tenga Arsa, an ancient language. For the first part of my speech. Lesbian in Irish is lesbiach, gay is erak, bi is danashak, trans is trasenshak, or tras for short, two-spirit is da anamu, and queer is aitak. Big thanks to the Antas Namaklein and Erin, the Union of Students in Ireland, for putting together Folklore Aitak, the queer dictionary. And for the second part of my speech, I want to talk a bit about homophobia. It's really a shame to see it so prevalent on the island. I'm thankful myself that I've never really had to experience anything like physical violence or abuse like that, but I've definitely had my fair share of verbal abuse. Like I remember when I was working at Stop and Shop, I had a customer during the height of the COVID pandemic call me a transvestable. And one of my earliest really formative memories is from the Smithtown Gospel Tabernacle. One of their workers had directly said to me that gay people don't go to heaven. And it filled me with Baron Agus Marvel, sorrow and confusion. I have to fight tooth and nail to figure out myself, who I am, as Aniv Enarha Agus Danashak, a non-binary bisexual person. So really, the only thing I have to say to them is Danum Dan Dabble, Agus Pog Mahain, your soul to the devil and kiss my ass.
Thank you so much, Finn. I'm really proud of you for speaking. I know it's probably your first time ever, right?
Outside of the classroom.
Nice. Little round of applause. Now, out of curiosity, do we have a Meg here? Meg? All right. So, I guess one of our speakers didn't come today, which is fine. So I'd like to welcome Nick Antonucci, who is a prospective candidate for C1.
Thank you, folks, and thanks, Chris, for having this. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for speaking your truth. And thank you for continuing the fight for dignity and equality, because that's why we're here today. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Nick Antonucci, and I am a proud, union-strong, middle-class public school teacher. I'm currently exploring the possibility of running for Congress as an independent voice for working families. But today, I'm not here as a candidate. Today, I'm here as an ally. Today, I am here as a teacher, but today, I'm here as a father. I have a transgender daughter whom I love with all my heart. She's brilliant, she's kind, and she's courageous. But like so many young people today who don't conform to society's narrow expectations, she's suffering. And it's not because of who she is, it's because of what too many in our society still refuse to understand. Because of this, she's faced some deep struggles. So much so, she's been hospitalized for suicidal thoughts. She questioned whether she belonged in this world, whether she was truly safe and truly seen. And that breaks me. And I know there are parents out there, right? Where are my parents? No parent should have to watch their child doubt whether their life is worth living. Not because of anything they did wrong, but because society couldn't find the decency to accept them as they are. Now, I tell you this not to gain your sympathy, but we can't keep dancing around the truth. We have children in our schools. We have teens in our community. We have adults in our neighborhood struggling and suffering in silence for simply trying to live authentically. And that is wrong, and that must end. As a teacher, both in the high school level and the college level, I've seen the toll that bigotry takes on young folks. I've seen the fear in their eyes when they try to hide who they are. I've seen their exhaustion from pretending. But then in contrast, I see what happens when there's support, when there's affirmation, and when there's love. That transformation is powerful, but it's far too rare. It's one of the reasons I serve on my town's anti-bias task force, because love without action is not enough. And I need more people to understand that, especially today, that allyship is more than just a hashtag. It is a lifelong commitment. And right now, we are seeing an erosion of the laws and the norms that once protected the LGBTQIA plus community. We're seeing politicians stoking fear for political gain. We see books banned. We see identities erased. And we're seeing healthcare stripped away. And we must call that out. We must stop it. Now let me be clear. Bigotry should never be normalized. Prejudice is not policy. And using the power of government to go after the most vulnerable in our society is not leadership. It's cruelty, plain and simple. Every child in this country deserves an opportunity to grow into the best version of themselves, to live a meaningful life, one filled with dignity and purpose. That's the promise of America. But that promise needs to be made real, not for some, but for all. So I stand today in front of all of you as a proud ally of the LGBTQIA plus community. I stand as a teacher. I stand as a father. And I also stand as someone who will refuse to accept a future where our children are forced back into the shadows. So if I do choose to run, and if I'm lucky enough to earn your support, I want you to know this. I won't just vote the right way. I'll fight. I'll fight for your families like I would fight for mine. I'll fight like my daughter's life depends on it, because it does, and so many others do too. So let's keep working towards a future where everyone belongs. We can build something better together. So stay proud, stay strong, and remember, when we come together, when we come together for a purpose, not around a party, we can accomplish extraordinary things. Again, my name is Nick Antonucci. Thank you.